Welcome to Author Life Podcast, where myself and guest authors share their stories, offer tips and advice, and share our writing, publishing, and marketing knowledge. I'm your host, Delcherie Gladden.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. We are here with Best-Selling Reads. We had a little bit of some technical difficulty trying to get the software to work this morning. So I am trying to get Scott on now. We had a little bit of an issue. I think he's here, so let me bring him on.
Hello, Scott Burry here.
Hi, Scott. Sorry about the issues getting the show started today. Had a little bit of trouble trying to get the software to work for me.
Yeah, it's always, I guess, a bit of a challenge when something's new.
Well, I should be figured out now. I don't know what was going on. But wanted to get started now that we finally got both of us on the phone here.
Oh, good.
So would you like to tell a little bit about yourself to get started for those of us who maybe haven't listened to the show before and had the chance to meet you?
Sure. Well, I'm a long-time writer, and I've professionally, and I've published now 3 full-length books, and which is in 3 completely different genres, but The Bones of the Earth, One Shade of Red, and Army of Worn Souls. And I'm currently the president of the Best-Selling Reads group or association. I live in Ottawa.
On today. Oh, go ahead. Sorry,
no
I didn't interrupt.
Happy to be here.
All right. Well, little bit of a rocky start this morning for us, but I think we're ready to get going now. So in the past, on the Best-Selling Reads radio show, we've done more of an interview based on each author's kind of who they are, what they've been doing. Today, we're going to take a little bit of a different track with a topic that Scott wanted to discuss today, and we're going to be talking about collaborative publishing and kind of what that is, how it works, and how other authors can use this style of publishing. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. We lost a few minutes at the beginning there. So Scott, go ahead and kind of tell our listeners what collaborative publishing is and how it works.
Well, it's a model that really is not all that different from the traditional or the commercial publishing. It has all the same functions, but it's something that I kind of discovered or through my own experience a few years ago. And just the idea is that if professional writers often have, almost always have, other skills besides writing. A lot of professional writers are also excellent editors, proofreaders, and some are top-notch designers as well. People have knowledge in terms of book manufacturing, book production, marketing and promotion. These are all functions that the commercial publisher provides to the author. So, a number of years ago, well, not that many years ago, really, as Kindle and Amazon really started to take off, there was a lot of derision being heaped on the so-called self-publishers by the commercial publishers and by professional reviewers and some of the newspapers and magazines. But I just thought, well, what is really the difference if an author, if the work is professionally edited, if the work is professionally designed, if somebody's taking care of marketing and promotion, what's the difference between that and what a commercial publisher does? And the other thing I began to notice is that, even commercial publishers, even the biggest and the most prestigious, publish a lot of bad books too. So they don't really have an exclusive market on quality literature.
Exactly. Yes.
So the idea is just where authors share their skills and work together and produce excellent books and bring them to the market. So that was just the idea. And around 2011, 2012, I started to look around, see if there were any other people who would be interested in that kind of thing. And there are I found about 10 or 12 people, and we banded together in a loose organization. We call ourselves Independent Authors International, and we swap these sorts of skills: writing, editing, proofreading, formatting for print or EPUB, and even cover design.
Wonderful. And no, that's definitely from my own experience as well, has really become more of an option for a lot of authors, especially those who are new and kind of getting into independent publishing and don't always know where to go for editing or cover design, or they end up paying for something and being disappointed in the quality because it wasn't, someone they knew well, or they didn't have good recommendations. So it's definitely something I've done as well, and I've seen a lot of other authors kind of branching out into this collaborative idea of publishing and using each other's skills.
Exactly. I think it's happening quite a lot and more frequently. I just think it's something I wanted to talk about, sort of put a name to it and try to help make it more of a concrete concept for people, to know that there is a route that's been followed and that has been proven successful, and you're not sort of constrained. And the other, really the worst thing that any writer can do is to try to edit his or her own work. And the second worst thing they can do is design their own cover.
If you don't have design experience, if that's not something you've been trained to do, it is a lot harder than I think people expect. And for myself, I did schooling in art and graphic design, and so that's something that I've done for myself and for various other authors as well. But it is difficult when when some authors start in and then they want to design their own cover, and just learning some of the software and kind of put the design elements together. It's very challenging. It is.
Yes. Sure. If you have the skills, if you've got the training in doing that, that's terrific. And, I do know actually, besides yourself, there's a couple of other writers who are excellent writers, but also have that graphic design ability and can produce a very professional cover. The thing is that you can tell instantly that a professionally designed cover from one not so professional. It's like being hit in the head.
It is. And I know I've seen several where it's kind of like it's a photo just with some text on it. And sometimes you can make that work, but a lot of times it does take a little bit more than just adding text onto a photo and then using that as your cover, just being able to be familiar with what really goes into cover design. It's something that, if you're not trained to do it, doing some kind of trade or in this collaborative model is a great way to get a really professional cover. And I think we all know everybody judges books by the cover, and that's what they look at before anything else. So, editing and cover design, like you said, those are two of the biggest factors in putting out a professional and quality book.
And with a bad cover, it's really going to, the sales are going to suffer. So the author's not going to achieve what he or she wanted to with the work. So it's a lot of, writing a book is long and hard enough. I think we all need some help.
and you want to see the benefit from it. And definitely.
And that's why I see writing really is especially book writing is really a collaborative art. It does require more than one person to do a good job. The popular image of the writer is someone who's a solitary worker, sits in his cabin and types away, and after that, the books come out and the audience is happy with it. And, the commercial publishing industry has kind of promoted that because they're the ones in control of all the steps between the author's keyboard and the reader. But
So,
but
there's a lot that goes on between.
Yeah, and when the commercial publisher does all that work, but then takes 75 to 90% of the revenues, that's not really an equitable solution, especially today when there are tools that enable more people to get involved. Without, it still calls upon the creative and managerial skills of the person, but it's no longer needs to be kept in a building.
So what benefits have you seen in this process with using other authors rather than hiring out your editing and cover design to a firm or another individual?
Well, I find that when an author gives me feedback, often it's on the story itself, and then we'll call it, hey, this doesn't make sense, or give suggestions or say something, develop this person a little bit more, this character, or tell me more about this kind of thing. Whereas just someone who's just editing, looking to make sure that the continuity is there and everything's spelled correctly, probably wouldn't get that kind of insight. I think it's more. I found it more enriching because I'm also learning when I ask another author to work on my writing. I've done some research. I've read that author's writing, and I've come to like it. So I find that I've learned, some aspects of their craft, and I think that's enriched my own.
Definitely. So what are some of these skills and functions that are typically shared within a collaborative publishing method?
Well, there's various levels of editing, and rewriting. Editing is substantive or story editing. There's copy editing. There's proofreading. All these things are sort of have to be done in a separate process almost, but there's those types of editing. I found design. I've worked with David C. Cassidy, who's designed 2 of my book covers, and he's a terrific designer. He's also an author, so we share that or sort of trade off those kinds of services. So I found that works quite well. I think I know that some authors too are. They're good at networking and social media, connecting with readers and that kind of thing. So, I think an author could be a great marketer for books.
Yeah, and marketing especially. Yeah, I think that's an area that more recently I've kind of teamed up with authors on events or, special promotions, things like that, where you've got, 10, 20 people all promoting the same event or the same sale or something like that. And it's obviously you're going to get more exposure when you have more people all promoting the same thing. And that's been a really helpful avenue lately for me, especially, is kind of banding up with other authors for marketing purposes. That's something I've really have struggled with in the past, and I've more recently really been trying to learn about it and everything. So I think, just there's such a wide range, and anything an author finds themselves particularly struggling with, there's usually someone else out there that is great at it.
Yeah, that's true. And I find, for me too, it's that marketing promotion. To me, it's almost like this, a black box. I really don't know what to do in it. And if I start exploring, there's so many different things or different ways to promote an event or a book or an author or anything. And social media keeps, morphing and growing. You really need, I think it's a unique set of skills or talents to be able to stay on top of that and to see a new social medium opening up and then create some avenue to be successful on it and to figure that out. So, I think anyone who has that talent has a lot to offer, either a publisher or a writer or a group.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's, I find it also I think it's outside of my comfort zone to be able to, sort of keep all those things going. Like you almost have to continually be promoting, but at the same time you have to continually be writing more books. So, there's only 24 hours in a day, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. I was just reading an article last night about, I think they referred to it as the publishing cliff, that readers now are expecting a new book from a particular author, a book or a novella, some sort of piece of written work that's published every 90 days. And I was a little floored by that. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, I write pretty fast, but I don't put out a book every 90 days usually. And, just kind of really trying to stay on top of that, or, bundling your books into a box set, something that every 90 days you've got something new out there. And I was floored by that. I was like, wow, yeah, I need some more ideas. I need some, some help, getting things to stay in the eye of the reader a little bit more. And I think it really does take an effort with fellow authors to kind of help keep ourselves going with just the writing, with the production, with the marketing, with all of it.
Yeah, it takes a lot, and just the coordination of it all, the management, I guess time management or whatever.
Yes.
I know I should be producing 1,000 words a day, but I find I'm very lucky if I can put out a book a year. That's kind of because every 90 days is, I don't know, it would have to be something short because there's writing it, which I guess if you've done the National Novel Writing Month thing, everybody knows we can produce the first draft of a book in 30 days. But then there's all the rewriting, and then there's editing, and all these other things take time too. So I can't.
They do.
Can't imagine doing it in 90. Although there are people like, you do a couple books a year, right?
I typically do. Yeah, I haven't done the whole lot lately. But
and then there's guys like Russell Blake who seem to churn out a book a month or something, but he's got a whole team working with him. So again, it's a collaborative effort. It requires more than one person.
It does. Excuse me. So what do you find, or what have you seen as kind of this collaborative approach? How does that benefit readers the most?
Well, I think, first of all, if a writer is working with someone else, whether paid or as a commercial publisher or another author, there's the quality of the final work. So readers are getting better books that are produced by a team. And that was the case when it was commercial publishing. But then the commercial publishing world is shrinking. As we know, there's fewer and fewer bigger and bigger players in it. And I find that the range of books out there from commercial publishing is also getting narrower. So with the collaborative approach, we just open the field up. We get more new kinds of books, new stories, new genres, and new authors. So I think there's a lot more choice and for the reader, and there's a lot higher quality. A collaborative group that is dedicated to producing quality work can produce books as well or better than the commercial publisher.
I really have to agree with that. Yeah. It's been interesting. I've been teaching a publishing class the last couple months, and it's been interesting kind of going over topics with the students, and some of them asking, why is it so hard to get into traditional publishing now, even more than it used to be? And one of the students made the comment, she's like, a lot of the books that are coming out, she's like, they aren't even that good. Like, I don't understand. And, and just one of the things that I feel like has been a pattern lately is that a lot of books are being chosen in traditional publishing based on their potential to become merchandise in the form of movies and T-shirts and whatever else, rather than on the quality of the story. And,
exactly.
I think readers are seeing that more and more, and they're getting discouraged. And so having these other avenues that books are being put out that are high quality, well-written, good stories that, they really wouldn't be seen otherwise, because traditional publishing is not interested in a lot of those topics.
Yeah, and you'll find that with traditional, or I find anyway, with traditional commercial publishing, is that they just want to produce the same thing over and over because they're all looking for the next big hit, right? They're all looking for the next 50 Shades of Grey, and they have to. There's a tremendous pressure on publishers and editors in the publishing field to do that, to have a blockbuster, and so the book that sells 10,000 copies a year, which would have been most people would have been very happy with. I mean, I used to work in commercial publishing, and 10,000 sales, well, in Canada anyway, was terrific. But you could make a profit on that, but no one's accepting that anymore. The commercial publishers are just so you see more books like Lee Child's Reacher, where there's a series and they keep putting out more, and then you'll see so many copycats of that. And, it's the same kind of story, and you can predict what's going to happen next. You know what this story is about, and you know what this genre is.
Formulaic.
Yeah. So if you're a reader who wants something new, I think, there's less and less variety in the commercial publishers.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think the criticism of the early days of the self-publishing or Kindle boom, the criticism was often justified that these books aren't professionally edited. They're full of mistakes. It's clunky writing and the covers are terrible. But I think there's a lot of very high quality stuff out there now. I mean, if you scroll through Amazon or Barnes and Noble or any of the e-publishing or e-tailers, is that the word? It's not easy to tell the difference between the independently published and the commercially published books anymore.
Yeah, it's not. And it seems like readers themselves, if they really want to, they can look it up and they can find out, how a book was published, whether traditionally or independent or hybrid or what have you. But most of them, just from interacting with readers and reading different articles and stuff, a lot of them now, they're looking for a good story. They don't care how it was published. They want a good story to read.
Yeah. I mean, when I read book now, I tend to pay attention, but when I used to, before I got sort of deeply into this, to read a book, I almost never paid attention to who the publisher was. Was it HarperCollins? Was it Penguin, Doubleday, sometimes I'd look at it, but most of the time I have no clue.
Yeah. I think unless it was fantasy, and I think just because their names are so synonymous with fantasy, like Del Rey and Tor,
Right.
I think those were the only publishers I would really look at when I'm looking at fantasy. Sometimes with fantasy, you end up with something really weird, and it was like if you got one of those two, you're like, okay, I know, I think I know about what I'm going to get with Del Rey and Tor, but I mean those are the only ones I ever looked at. I was never like, oh, HarperCollins. I don't know. I'm pretty loyal to Scholastic. Like that just really isn't a concern. It wasn't even 10, 15 years ago, and then now it's even less of a concern. Readers, just they want to be entertained, and they don't want to have to stumble over bad grammar and typos and all of that.
Right.
And honestly, in some of the few commercially produced books that I've read lately, I haven't been all that impressed with the editing in some books that are coming from traditional publishers either. No,
I've noticed too in the last few years. It's you'll just see errors that somebody should have caught. Now I know that some almost always slip through, but again, it just proves that they're not perfect, and actually they're no better than a good close-knit group of professional but independent people.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I definitely agree with that. Well, we've got about 3 minutes left, so I wanted to make sure to save some time. If you wanted to share anything about your books or any upcoming events or releases that you have, and make sure you're able to share that with any of the listeners.
Well, one of the things I'd like to share is that I have joined with a few other members of Bestselling Reads in Toby Neal's Kindle World, Lee Crime Kindle World, and the Kindle World is an initiative from Amazon where usually an author has a series of books out, and other authors contribute stories within that universe. It has to be approved by the author and by Amazon as well. And so I've got a few people, members of Bestselling Reads already who are participating. Emily Kimmelman is one of them, and Christine Nolfi, who was a member a year ago or so, has done another. So I'm happy to say I'm hard at work on my Lay Crime novella, which should be out in July.
Oh, it's exciting. And I know that's kind of a newer initiative. I've seen it with a few different authors. How, if you don't mind, how did you get involved in that, and how did that, and Toby Neal and everything, how did that kind of come about?
Actually, Toby Neal asked me to, and she asked a number of people if they would be interested in contributing to this. She asked me, back in January or so, and but the deadline was to have a book, novellas ready to go for April 7th, and I just couldn't meet that deadline at that point. I had too many things going on. But there's going to be another flight coming out in July. A number of the contributors, the first one, have committed to writing more, and there's some new people involved as well. So I'm quite excited about it. And actually, I'll be going I'll be going to Hawaii just to do a bit of on-the-spot research for the book as well in June.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I hope you have fun doing the research in Hawaii.
Thank you.
I hope the writing goes well also. We're just about out of time. Just wanted to say thank you for coming on, and thank you for being patient with the technical difficulties this morning.
Not a problem.
It was great to talk to you, and we will be back soon with more Bestselling Reads in a few weeks. So you guys have a great morning, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks again for listening to Author Life Podcast. For more information on the podcast or guest authors, check out the links in the show description. If there's a topic you'd like to learn more about, find me online and send me suggestions anytime.